This 4-inch shell will be a silver spider web, and I think you saw the video earlier when I made the flash bag assembly to go in here and made the casing. Well, there's the flash bag inside the center of the shell, and I put a liner inside this shell. It's 18-point chipboard, 2 turns. It's just being popped down inside there, and the liner's 3.5 inches high. Now the reason I put this in is because ordinarily in a 4-inch shell you'd make your stars fairly small. If they were colour stars, about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch cut stars, and if they were tail stars, maybe a little bigger, 3/8 to 1/2 an inch. But these stars that I'm using for this spider shell, these are Charlie Wilson Silver Chrysanthenum, and they're pretty big. They're 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch, and they burn very, very fast. Maybe a second and a half they'll have burnt up. But if I fill this with these stars this size, they're not going to consolidate very well inside the casing. I'm going to have a lot of spaces in there which I'll have to fill with Polverone, and I'm worried that I'm going to get a soft casing if I fill them with big stars like this. So adding the liner to the shell like this gives the case a bit more rigidity and allows you to put bigger stars in there. Also the liner gives me a fill level. I know exactly when I've got 3.5 inches of stars in there, and when I come to put my end disc in, it sits nice and flat on the end of the step where the liner is. So I take my casing, but because there's a flash bag in here, there's obviously no canal. I fill the case about 1/3 to 1/2 full, and as I said, because they're quite big stars and I want to fill the spaces between them, and also to help aid ignition of the stars, I put a small handful of Polverone in there. This Polverone is not milled, it's just been run through a 20 mesh screen a couple of times. It's got 3% dextrin in it, and it's been granulated through a 4 mesh sieve. So I put it in there and just tamp it. And I've got a small dowel just to tap them into place. You don't want to be whacking on stars hard when you're consolidating stuff in a casing. In this case they're chrysanthemum stars. They're not particularly sensitive, but if they were chlorate stars, you definitely wouldn't want to be belting on them. You just want to tap them and just help to settle them into the best configuration so they make a nice tight case. I should mention if you keep wrapping the shell up and down a lot, what will happen is the big pieces, the stars, will come to the surface and your Polverone will end up on the bottom. So you don't want to be knocking it too much, otherwise you end up with everything separating. Okay, you can see in there it's just under 1/2 full. So I'll put some more in there. Patting the case like this, the cubes jiggle about and they get into the best, tightest configuration so that they take up the least amount of space in the shell. And again, some more Polverone. Just pat it so it settles down into the spaces there. Give it a bit of a tamp. Now I'm nearly up to the top of the liner now, I'm within about 1/8 of an inch of the top of it, and I just want to give it a squeeze, give it a good hard squeeze, especially down the base here towards the end disc. If you feel any soft spots, if the case gives way to your finger pressure, then something's not packed well enough. You need to pack it more. But that feels nice and solid. And I probably can't get many more in there. I don't want to come above the liner. Put a few more. Okay, and now I just want to fill this space here that's left above the liner with a bit more Polverone, so I've got a nice flat top like that. And now before I pop my end disc in, I just make sure there's no granules of the Polverone sitting on top of the edge of the liner itself that will stop the end disc from going down nice and flat. You want to have your Polverone just slightly higher than the level of the line, only a little bit, 1/16 of an inch will do it, so that when you come and insert your end disc, tamp it down like that, it'll push everything nice and tight. My end disc is nice, sitting flat on the liner there now. The casing's nice and firm, there's no soft spots anywhere on it. And now you simply close the end off in the same way as you did when you were making the case. Only this way you're going around making your folds clockwise, which being left-handed I find a bit fiddly. Again, no glue. Consolidate your folds with some kind of rounding tool. That's my second turn. If you remember, I made this shell casing. Ordinarily it would be made with 4 turns of £70 paper, but because I was using this £90 and because I'm putting a liner in it, I just used 3 turns. 3 turns of £90 paper. Now I've got a hole in the end where the All-Packs guide pin goes. I'll just put a bit of tape over that. And I just fold over the last layer. Pop another end disc over the top. And again, I'm not spiking this today, so rather than have everything coming off and becoming loose, I just put 3 strips of tape around the end disc down the side of the shell just to hold it into place until I come to spike it. Okay, so the case is filled. It's nice and firm. You don't worry about the gaps on the end discs here, anything like this, because all this is going to disappear later when you come to spike it all together. This is just holding it on temporarily. It's the spiking that's going to hold all this nice and tight later. So that shell's ready to spike. I guess you're putting about 6 tablespoons, maybe 7 tablespoonfuls of Polverone in here to consolidate it. Bear in mind it also is going to ignite as well when the flash charge goes off. It's going to provide more secure ignition of the spiderweb stars. The spiderweb stars look particularly nice when the shells are fired in volleys of 4 or 5 or more. They produce a really nice pattern across the sky. And these, I've made 10 of them. We fired them from a 10-shot rack that's arranged. It's in a V shape. So that one will be going straight up, another couple will be going off at an angle. 5 degrees off centre, and the others will be a bit more. So they'll give a nice spread across the sky. That was my last two.
Yeah.